is stored in those batteries, and the batteries feed in whenever it is needed. Then that adds to the cost also.
So this unit here, for example, what is it powering and how much?
So in the state of Arkansas, they have a very nice law that says I can put one system in, and every electric meter that that person has in their name all around that region can be powered by that one system. So this individual, he owns property management company that has 20,000 different doors. And so they wanted us to build a pilot system for them to say that if we put in a large system, let's say on the top of a parking garage in Miami, Florida, then we can legally sell that electricity to all of our tenants ourselves. What does that look like? What kind of parking and everything will that do? So in the state of Arkansas, they will let us put one in where one of his shops is, and then every other electric meter that's in his name, 2 other businesses and a home, now get offset. So if that produces, let's say, that's a 40 kW system, 6 kW is going to save about $100 a month. So let's say $500 per month is saved by that system. This building uses 150 of it, this building uses 150 of it, this building uses 150 of it, and there's still a little bit of electric bill left by the time it's all said and done. They call that net metering with assigned credits, and Arkansas is one of the few states that does allow that. It's one of the reasons that we have a staff member in Fayetteville, a staff member in Bentonville, a staff member in Eureka, a staff member in Garfield, in Arkansas, but here in Missouri we only have me in Seneca, one in Neosho, and one in Joplin. So we have a lot more projects in Arkansas and customers in Arkansas than we do in Southwest Missouri. Friendlier laws.
Yeah. Do you work with the tribes out of Oklahoma at all?
Yes, but I'm not at liberty to say which tribes.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
I work with them too a lot. That's
Okay.
what I was asking, so I get a lot of grants to them and stuff, because they have the money if it's allowed in their state.
Yeah, the tribes, it's kind of like a college. When you get to an entity of that size, they move at the speed of government. And a lot of the Department of Energy grants have this deadline. And we have spent a lot of time just for a tribe to not be able to get the approval to even apply for the grant.
Yeah.
Then my last name is Poor. I don't do this for money. Be a teacher and you'll figure that out, you know. So, you know, it's very frustrating because now we have, as an entity, done a lot of work for them. And I can't in good conscience send them a bill for just wasted work. And so it makes us very hesitant about which entities we help without getting some type of a retainer. And a lot of people are curious. We charge $100 per hour for our consulting to a for-profit entity. We charge $80 per hour for our consulting for a farm entity, even if they are for-profit. We only charge $60 per hour for our hourly billing to a non-profit entity, and the tribe would be considered a non-profit entity. We catch their attention pretty quickly because most solar consulting is $200 an hour. But right now I have 3 entities that are 90 days overdue in billing, and that gets really hard because they're a giant entity and there's not one person that I can call and say, hey Bob, can you pay this bill? Because when you call the one contact you've got, they tell you things like, well, I've sent it on and you know the business council is going to meet to approve it, but we got hacked, or you know, just there's always something that happens that it's a real excuse. In the meantime, like we financially we're a very small company, and that has a really big impact. So when people say, well, why do you do any residential? Because they pay our bills. To be honest with you, I make a whole lot more money on profitability of a 10,000 watt residential system as we're to say a 100,000 watt commercial system. So because you still only have one permit for that, you still place one order for solar panels for that, you place one order for racking for that, and yeah, it's economy of scale. It's a real thing in the solar world for sure. Did I do such a good job? We've run out of questions.
Well, I have a squirrel, so I'm out. We had one of the business that's crazy, I wrote a book about it, so.
So, can you tell us a little bit more about the REAP grant? So,
Sure.
we have a lot of small business in here.
Sure.
Is that something we should be thinking about?
Yeah, absolutely. I can use one company as an example. They've never told me a yes or a no, but like if you go to our website, agvolts.com, nobody can spell agrivoltaics, so we did not put that on our website. Just agvolts.com. There's a little tab that says free solar ? And you click on it, and it's like you're being lied to. Solar is always going to be expensive, and every one of these darn marketing companies that's from another state comes in and free solar, free solar. It's just BS, guys. It's marketing. Solar is always going to cost you money. But in that tab, it will give you a breakdown of incentives. And for a business that is in Southwest Missouri, that, guys, if you're not profitable enough to pay taxes, you're not going to get all of these incentives. And that's where the farm businesses come in. Like, I got a lot of farmer friends and family. Like, we run a dairy. You have a huge revenue, but because you have all these tax deductions for your tractors and everything, they never end up having to pay taxes. So if I gave them a 30% tax deduction, they don't care about that. If I give them a 30% tax credit, that they can get that cash back, suddenly they care about it. And if they don't understand the difference because they just turn those things over to their accountant, then no matter, I can talk till I'm blue in the face and they're not going to get it. But the REAP grant is something they understand. 50% of your cost. You are approved in advance. So you apply for the REAP grant. It's a pain in the butt. I can tell you right now. My company will charge you $500 to jump through the hoops with you side by side and say, this is what you put in that weird question. This is what you put in that weird question. Hey, you know all of your address and tax ID number. You fill all of this out. You don't need my help for that. But we walk you through that step-by-step process of applying for the REAP grant. It's going to take 30 to 90 days to get told you are approved or not approved. 100% of the people we've applied for, we've gotten approved. Okay? We're not going to waste your time if we look at your business and you're like, no, I'll take $500. Let's probably, no, I don't want to waste your time. Because later on, I mean, in reality, I'm going to pay a staff member. Our lowest paid hourly wage for our staff member is $29.80 an hour. So by the time that I pay this guy to help you jump through these hoops for 10, 15 hours and his benefits and overhead, we're really not making money on that. What our goal is that you get approved for the REAP grant. Then you come back and say, can I buy your racking and have this other company install it? The Undercliff Restaurant Show, that's in our processes right now with them. He owns a construction company, so he's going to have his own construction company do all of the construction. We are just going to be his E and his P, the EPC, and engineer, procure, and construct. We'll engineer it, we'll do all the paperwork for him, we'll provide him all the components that he needs, and he'll have another construction company do the installation and all of it. And so the whole part of the REAP grant is that it changes every period. When 2 years ago it was 25%. Last year it went to 30%. This year it's 50%. You know, will it be after January 1st? I don't know. Okay. If you want to get in on that, you got till December 31st to apply for the REAP grant. But basically what it does is it looks at your current electric bill. What are you currently spending on energy? How do you heat your home or your business, not your home? How do you heat your business? How do you cool your business? Are you willing to upgrade your heating and cooling mechanisms? Are you willing to re-insulate? For like, we own a brewery or part owner of a brewery in Seneca also. So we're updating our entire walk-in freezer system. We'll get half of that upgraded cost paid for through the REAP grant. And so there's two sides. There's energy savings, like efficiency, and there's energy production. All right, both of them are 50%. So whenever you are approved for it, now you're told you jump through the hoops, you are funded. We will pay for 50% of the qualifying costs. You will still have to pay for it out of your pocket. You're going to pay for those things you're going to put in. You're going to take that receipt. You're going to send it to the government. The next funding round, which is again 30 days, possibly 90 days, you're going to get a check back from them for 50% of whatever receipts that you submitted that were qualified. Once again, 100% of our people that have submitted have gotten their money back. We're going to do our absolute best to make sure that everything that you would install is qualified. There's some weird gray areas, like you have to install American-made panels. What is American-made? Man, you can get parts that were made all in foreign countries, but they were assembled here in the United States, and it qualifies. There's some loopholes or some gray areas that we want to try to keep you out of. And that's kind of the process. And that's what kind of scares people off sometimes is either you're going to have to borrow money to install the project up front, or you're going to have your own money to install the project up front. Once it's installed, it's completed, it's turned on, there's other incentives, like Liberty Utilities gives a cash incentive. So we look at your location geographically, we look at your basic tax situation, and we provide you with here's what we see you could benefit for that. If you want that done just on a consulting basis, we can charge an hourly wage for it. If you want it with the goal of we're going to apply for the REAP grant, it's $500. If you're good at things, you do grant stuff already, type in REAP grant. You'll find all the hoops to jump through in the language of government. And do it yourself whenever you're done, or at some point you're going to need a quote for your system. We'll give, for the energy side, we'll give you a quote for free. We'll charge you for that at all, you know. But then that doesn't always translate to the best application, because sometimes there's some things that are lost in translation of they're talking energy and you didn't quite pick up what power generation unit meant. You put solar panels and that was actually the inverter or something like that. So that kind of helped answer your REAP grant question. But there is a good breakdown on the website that shows a lot of those incentives. So, other questions? Good.
I haven't been in a lot of meetings, but Lowell, you can tell me this is a appropriate question. So what are the next steps for you as a business to move forward? Are you trying to scale this? Are you trying to get bigger? Are you just trying to get contracts? Where are you?
Yeah, so we've kind of been in a holding period waiting for trademark and patent approval. And we got our trademark maybe 3 months ago, and our patent, we now have a patent pending
Stamp.
there you go. Okay, stamp, there you go. And so I think, man, like motivation probably we need. I have 2 other businesses that I run also. And when IS was founded, I had a full-time job teaching. It's not my first company. I was very well aware my weakness in a company is the long-term day-to-day management of that. Like, I'm great at inspiration, let's go get these big projects and everything. So we have other people that's kind of their day-to-day role is growing this company. Probably our weaker links, I'll be honest. In the end, I still get called in for a lot of our bigger meetings. We have, they say 6 different grants that are in the pipeline right now that we have applied for as partners on, or we have been the consultants on. The answers will come February till June of next year, and if we get any of those, we would be at our capacity of manpower. So we're kind of hesitant to take on too many more big jobs. Right now, we've been focusing on finding manufacturers that could meet the demand of those big jobs. Our current manufacturer is Floyd Metals in Berryville, Arkansas, and they could maybe produce 4 to 6 megawatts of racking per year for us. And like one of our pollinator project alone would be 25 megawatts. And so we would have to, we met with a metal fabricator here in Missouri to get prices, or here in Joplin to get prices, some on the East Coast, and anywhere our projects are located, we try to meet with metal fabricators because the shipping of those can add up. If it's, it's weird to say that you have a project that the steel's coming from Minnesota, it's fabricated here, and we ship it back to Minnesota for a project. That just doesn't make any sense. Find a fabricator that's up there. So setting up a network of fabricators and getting quotes from them, because it's really shocking at how much price difference you will get from different parts of the country. Sometimes that added labor cost from East Coast labor prices to, Joplin labor prices, it's better than shipping, So we're trying to set up a decent fabrication network. And then we still, all the time, we get calls. We don't do a whole lot of advertising in the sense of we've been featured on a variety of news programs around the country that, wow, this is a neat product, can we interview you, and things like that. We get calls and stuff from that. we don't want to turn into the local residential solar company that does the small systems, and that's one of the reasons that we will probably never advertise a lot locally. And I'll tell it myself, you know, I have done virtually nothing with the solar company since we submitted our application for our patents in June, and in July I began negotiations and then bought a partnership, 40% partnership of Track 94 Brewery in Seneca. And so we moved it to a new location, and I've been working 10-hour, 12-hour days getting it into a new location up until 2 weeks ago when we opened then. And so for the first quarter of next year for the solar company, kind of our goal is get paid on what we're owed. There's one of the things that we would kind of have a focus on right now. Trying to find out if any of the larger projects that we have applied for grants on end up getting funded. And then maybe trying to turn some of the people that we're having conversations with into customers for either racking sales. That's what we really want to do, is just sell the racking. But a lot of times the people that they don't know enough about the rest of the stuff, and we get pulled in to do a lot more of the work than just selling the racking to them. So, yeah. I don't know if that really answered the question. I wish I had a better answer to that. What's next in a sense. So, yeah.
Is the racking only like available to be like attached to the ground, or are you putting racking? So I work at the public library, and we have a giant flat roof.
Yep.
Is that-
So there's all kinds of racking mechanisms that are far superior to ours that would go on rooftops. Flat roof, if it is a modern constructed enough building that it can handle the weight, flat roofs are the absolute cheapest surface to put solar panels on. You don't have to put holes in the roof. You just use ballasts, basically like sandbags, to hold the panels in place. So you don't have to drill holes.
Good.
There's no leaks.
Because it already leaks, so you
Oh,
don't
no.
need more.
Not my problems. That's the reason I don't want to drill holes in your roof.
Yeah.
That's another reason we avoid residential systems.
Yeah.
You know, is there's nightmares with putting holes in roofs. But if they do have a roof that supports the weight, it is very, very inexpensive to put solar panels on a flat roof. And yes, we do projects like that for people. How it works for us, you come to us, we do the engineering, we get a complete materials list, we do the procurement, we supply all that materials list, and we find a local contractor that does all of the installation, and we have one of our guys on site, normally Tyler Lloyd, the guy that's standing in that picture. He's our solar operations director. That he's quality control. Everything that gets hooked up, he's inspecting it and photographing it, and if it's not done right, then we, right there at the time, we have them redo it or correct it. But we get into the challenge that the library is a nonprofit organization.
Yeah.
How do they benefit from a tax credit?
They don't.
They don't. So what we have to do normally for nonprofits, and that's where we started in this, we have very creative programs. I find an outside company that comes in and puts that system in for you and leases that system to you for 10 years. The lease payment costs you less than the monthly payment, than the savings for the electricity. And at the end of 10 years, they donate it to the library or they sell it to the library for $1. Basically, they make their money and interest back over that 10-year time period. The library gets an instant savings in their energy costs from month one. Not huge. Normally it's like 80 cents on the dollar, so you're going to have
Well, our bill's about $10,000 a month, so
you said $10,000 per month?
yeah. In the summer, seven
Oh,
or
that's in summer. Okay.
7 or 8 during the rest of the year. We spend over $100,000 on electricity.
That's a lot. Crowder College campus in Esher is $4 million a year, and that's one of the the big systems
But
that
they have
we looked at.
we have one building.
Yeah. That's a big bill. And I mean, again, we get down to these things like if you come to my company like, hey, we want you to solve this. We could spend 60 hours of our time and have an amazing presentation to give to the board and the city and everything just for them to say, thanks, no thanks.
Well, the city's, but the city's not really in charge of the library. We have our
Okay.
own board, so it would be the board.
Okay.
It might be more complicated.
Right.
But
And so when we get approached by organizations like that, tribal nations very similar, normally we say, look, let us just consult for you with an hourly wage. Give us a $2,000 retainer. When that $2,000 is used up, we'll send you a bill every month for whatever we've got left. If you find another role later on for us, like do the engineering and the procurement for this cost, then it's a set cost and everybody's happy. A lot of times we feel safer doing that. The other is what we call an engineering budget, and it's 5% of an estimated total project budget, and that's what we do for like the solar the Saudi Arabian companies. They come in and they want a $7 million project from us. They want all these answers in advance. I send my food scientist, who also works for the University of Arkansas, to Maryland to do soil samples and look at the plants that are existing on this. And and then we say 5% of this budget, we need $87,000 from you, and we'll give you all of these answers. That sounds like a lot of money, $87,000, before they get anything other than just some pieces of paper. So for something like that, we do the simple math and say, if you want to get rid of 80% of that $8,000 a month bill, your system is going to cost you approximately this much. 5% of that is going to be this. If you want to write us a check for that amount, we'll do the entire engineering for the project for that. If you don't move ahead because of the costs of the materials or the costs of the labor are too high, or the incentives that you're going to receive are too low, then we understand. But we're not going to return that 5% because we've got all that time in engineering and everything to create that pitch. The good thing is 2 years ago, the 30% tax credit would not have ever applied to nonprofits. It was a useless thing to even talk about. Go Biden administration just this year, they passed what's referred to as a nonprofit tax guidance, and they will return the 30% tax credit as cash to the nonprofits. So if you spend $100,000 on your solar electric system, the next quarter that you filed, maybe next year, depending on when your entity files, you would get a check back from the government for $30,000.
We don't file tax,
If you were going to get $30,000 back, I think it would be the incentive that you go ahead and file your taxes. And that's what I'm saying is, for nonprofits in the past, there was no incentive for them to talk about the solar. Okay? So if they bought it themselves, it was just useless. They couldn't depreciate it. They couldn't get a tax credit. The Biden administration changed that to where if you are Crowder College and you spent $1 million putting a solar electric system in, you would get a check back for 30% of that, $300,000 from the federal government. But you would have to file a tax statement showing, here's our receipt, here's our nonprofit status, in order to get that incentive back. Organizations that don't want to do that, churches, that's what we've run into. The churches just, I don't file anything, I'm not going to file anything. Then they tend to want to lease, because then the leasing company is what owns that. The leasing company actually benefits from the depreciation. The leasing company takes the 30% tax credit. And then the church just makes a payment to that leasing